So good evening, guys. Welcome to our Facebook Live. For the guys who watched the first part, I apologize. We're going to restart it because we couldn't hear Chris's audio. And I just want to say something about client interviews. There's something really cool about it because as much as you may learn from the Facebook Lives that I do and people enjoy it and gain from it, but sometimes some really powerful nuggets come when you're watching someone in the process of turning around the marriage. Right, so sometimes guys come in and I interview them at the end of the program. But Chris is 3 weeks into the program. I appreciate you taking your time to be with us today and share about your experience, your journey, and let's just get right into it. Just tell guys a little bit about you so we know who you are, where you're from, what's going on.
All right. So I was born and raised here in Anchorage, Alaska. Left for college, went to Ohio for about 4 years, and returned back home. Missed the mountains, missed the hunting, fishing, and just the outdoors in general. I met my wife about 15 years ago. We got married 13 years ago. We have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. And really, the changes since that time have been very difficult. And so, like David said, I found this group about 3 weeks ago. I jumped all in on it, and I've noticed a lot of changes. And it's changes, especially between me and my boys. I know the changes between me and my wife are going to take longer. There's a lot of things to work through, mostly on myself, because that's all I can really do is work on myself with the goal or the target of what I want in my marriage.
Can you share a little bit about that? Like what was going on in your marriage 3 weeks ago that made you pull the trigger and just jump into the program completely?
Sure. So back in September, my wife moved out of the master bedroom and into the guest room. She's still in the house, but a lot of the communication completely dropped off at that point. Everything was, there was a lot of anger, a lot of hostility. And even though I was trying to make things work, it didn't seem to work.
What were you trying?
Come Christmas.
What were you trying?
The whole trying to get the list done, trying to read her mind, but not actually successfully doing it, trying to force conversations that she wasn't ready to have. And in a way that wasn't building up the marriage. It was more of being a wrecking ball or, a hammer striking a board. Because really I felt like whatever I was trying wasn't working, and that board was just throwing the hammer right back at me.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
So with what you've learned in the past 3 weeks in the program with subconscious communication, marriage counseling, and all that, looking back at your past efforts, sincere as they were, what do you understand about them that helps you just have the context? Okay, this is why it wasn't working. This is why we weren't coming closer, even though I was trying to have conversations about us.
A lot of it was the intent. A lot of it was about me, the focus on me, the focus on my pain, the focus on what I wanted. For lack of a simple explanation would be pure selfishness. The whole goal of me to do things or doing of things was for my rewards and not our rewards, or not what she truly needed. It was what I wanted. It was what I felt needed to be done and taken care of.
But I want to point that out, that even that wasn't, you're saying it was selfishness, but that's only in retrospect. At the time, you weren't able to see it, actually.
Oh, that's correct. That's correct. I thought by doing these things that would, for my own benefit, would make her happy. I think, in fact, it made her more worried or more guarded, because they weren't truly what she wanted. They were things that I felt that she needed or felt that she wanted, but then there was also a sense of resentment because she wasn't telling me what she actually wanted.
And let's back up a little bit and go slowly. What was the thing that you saw in the Facebook group and the videos and the free videos that made you feel like, okay, this program might be what you needed to turn around your marriage?
Well, I think I saw one video before I reached out to you guys. I don't even think I saw a Facebook group. It was a similar. I think I saw something regarding your relationship and how long you had to work at it. And I've been working at this now. It seems like for over 2 years. My wife says it's been years that she's been having issues. Well, I only picked up on it maybe a year and a half ago, which means I'm way behind the curveball. And I can't exactly tell you what it was. I just know that as I was praying, I wanted a sign. I'm religious. I've got this faith background that I've been working on for 40 years now, born and raised. And so I asked for a sign, and whatever was said in those videos was comforting to know that based on my actions and the goals that I want, but being selfless in those acts, because it was something about who I truly am as a person instead of doing things in a negative way. If that makes any...
Well,
yeah.
Look, when it comes to spiritual things, it's like it sort of zigzags, doesn't go in straight lines. And if it makes sense to you, it makes sense to you. Just to give a little bit of context, we're talking about, like, I've heard a lot of guys say, they were asking for a sign and they saw some of the stuff that we put out there, because some of the powers that we dial in are spiritual. We don't talk about it a lot because it can help atheists as well and agnostics.
Absolutely.
And, as you know, can we just get a little bit of perspective? Like, once you actually joined the program, Amazing Marriage Fast Track, I think it was Amazing Marriage Blueprint at that point, the initial program. What was your first aha moment? Your first first clarity that you got that helped you understand your wife in a way that you never understood her before?
It was, so my wife was gone on a work trip when I joined Blueprint. So what I noticed with her came a week later. My first aha moment was with the boys.
Tell us about that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So throughout, when I started this, and really, I dived deep really fast. And there was a lot of looking inwards and seeing, okay, what are my actions actually doing? Are they benefiting my boys? Are they benefiting myself? Are they benefiting my relationship with my wife? Are they benefiting the nerves of my dogs? How is our house because of my actions? And a lot of it came back to over the last 6 years since the boys have been born, or we had Gabe, or my oldest. I became lazy and complacent. I felt pushed off to the side. Well, instead of by feeling that way, it's a negative form instead of saying, hey, look at the gifts that I have. And so when I started looking at the times that I have with my boys as a gift, because they're not always going to be young, I'm sure when they get into their teenage years, they're going to be angry. I want those times to be happy.
So what was so instead, what happened that, let's step back from all the things you did, because you did a lot of things to make these changes happen. And
right.
What I want to ask you is, what actual results did you see in the interaction with your kids? And the reason why this is important, guys watching this video, when you make the correct changes in your personality, changes that will penetrate the intimate pain, the intimate barrier, the wall around your wife's heart, on the way to that goal, on the way to that trophy, on the way to actually completing it, you will, if you're doing this correctly, you will notice a lot of people around you responding very positively to your changes. So can you tell us some of the breakthroughs you've had with your kids or with your dogs? I don't know. I just heard about it now.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about that.
The boys especially, they're more drawn towards me within the last 3 weeks than I feel they have been in a long time. They both want me to put them down for bed. They are responding to my gentle commands, or like, hey, it's time to get ready, a lot quicker than they were. They're not running away, and they're not crying because I'm no longer yelling. So we're having a better communication. As for the dogs, they're not barking as much. And I don't know if it's just because of that excitement, that anger excitement is no longer with me. They're not feeding off of that. The boys' emotions are a lot more level. Don't get me wrong; they're two brothers, so they still fight. But it seems like
they have to.
Yeah, they definitely do. I wonder if they're going to be Cain and Abel every once in a while, but
Hope not.
they don't. They're definitely responding to, hey guys, you need to stop this because it's not going to be beneficial for the long run, and you guys are just getting amped up. And so they're starting to see my reasoning a little bit better, and I'm actually explaining things to them as they should be as kids, instead of thinking they're adults. They have just the same type of emotions, but they don't have the words to verbalize. So I'm being more patient with them, and they seem to be responding better.
Can I ask you? Can I ask you this question though? This is probably going to be in the top of guys' minds. A lot of what you're saying doesn't sound like connected to their marriage. It sounds very much like typical things. Don't be angry. Don't yell. Like, don't be selfish. It sounds very, very basic, and like you would think, like, okay, no duh, like you should be able to know this. And I want guys to understand some context. You've already been working on these things. You've been working on yourself for a while. So can you give a little bit of perspective of, okay, this is what I did before. I was working on these things, but I still couldn't see certain things, understand certain things, read certain messages, certain subconscious messages, and now I could. Can you give a little bit of a difference to help understand, okay, what was your effort before and what you weren't able to reach and what you are able to reach right now? I don't know if that question makes sense or if it was like a too deep.
I think it does. One of the biggest things is patience. I mean, it don't get me wrong, I would say the things to these boys, but I would lose patience a lot quicker.
And where's your patience coming from? Because a lot of guys try to have patience. A lot of men know they should have patience, and it could be patience with their kids. It could be patience with their wives. They try to have it, and then it just like bursts out, and they lose control. Like, could you explain a little bit about that?
It's coming on who I truly am what my true higher identity is. Before the kids, I was very patient. I was a soccer coach for 10 years. Before the kids, I was able to teach and lead in such a way. But I think by the negative feelings I was having, and up until I found this, the negative feelings I was having was affecting my patience, was affecting the way I was explaining things to these boys, was affecting my anger. You could even say jealousy for the attention they were getting from my wife. There was a block there. But as soon as I realized who I truly am, and who I was before the boys came along, being patient, being kind, actually having open communication and helping, that's who I need to get back to. And the blueprint and fast track itself has opened my eyes to what I have lost because of the inner cat or the emotions that I let run havoc.
Thank you. Like, and just so I can translate some of what you're saying to other guys, because you're speaking like in advanced terms because you've been in the program.
Sorry.
No, I don't expect differently. It's like you can be aware that you have anger. You could be aware that you have impatience. You could be aware that that those emotions are very strong. But if you don't read a situation correctly and you just try to push down those emotions, they're actually going to bust out whether you're aware of them or not. They're going to communicate subconsciously to your kids. It's going to push them away. Mm-hmm. They're going to feel the angst even if you make them believe it's not there. Because you can use a lot of therapy, you can use a lot of counseling. It's still not going to help you see who you are, who you're supposed to be, and how to show up as a dad and a husband. Which brings me to the most obvious question, which is probably on a lot of guys' minds. Tell me something about your actual changes you've seen in your marriage. What was the first change you've seen in your marriage skill set that you were like, okay, wow, I'm on track? It may take some time, but you knew you were on track just from the skill that you've gotten and from the way your wife responded to you.
The way my wife responded to me, it took, let's see, she got back, I was day 6, I think, when she got back from Hawaii. That next weekend, she made a comment that, well, before she left, she was talking about marriage counseling, and it was going to be after her trip to Hawaii. So she got back, and I was getting ready for that conversation. Within that first week, she has not brought it up once. I apologized for some of my selfish actions beforehand, and she she said, well, we'll see how long that lasts. Which I know David's going to find funny, but it's one of those things that she said, you make changes for a couple weeks and then they go away. So she's only actually seen these changes for 2 weeks. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen the next week. For the last 3 or 4 months since she moved out of the master bedroom, we haven't talked on our 3-hour drives down to see the in-laws, which we do once a month. She's been watching downloaded movies and on her headphones and talking with the boys, where I am just the driver. Last weekend we were driving back and she actually put the computer away. She put the headphones down and we talked for 3 hours all the way back. Now, don't get me wrong. It wasn't necessarily a fun conversation. But I was able to sit there and listen and read what she was saying, to understand what she was saying. And instead of shutting it down and becoming defensive, there was more of an open dialogue that we haven't had in months. The next night after work, she wanted to continue that conversation. And David, we haven't talked about this, but she wanted to continue that conversation. And she actively asked the boys to go play upstairs instead of having them as a distraction or a wall between us.
Oh, wow. I didn't know this. So on tomorrow's, we have a call tomorrow. We'll talk about it. That's fascinating. We'll deal with that. So how did it feel when you had that first open conversation with her for like 3 hours and she's making it a priority to continue the conversation? What did that do to you inside?
It felt really good. At least we're having a dialogue. At least something's moving again. Don't get me wrong. I know it's not on my time. And I think that's also the other thing is I didn't even have to push it. I did not bring it up. She actively had a notebook in front of her wanting to talk about our schedules and what the next few weeks were going to look like. And then the conversation continued through. And it was truly because I was open to listening. And when she wanted my input, I would give her my take. I could give her my concerns, and it wasn't a shutdown of communication. It actually feels really good, and I'm encouraged to see more of that.
That's beautiful, and I appreciate you sharing it. That's like a real life, example of what subconscious communication is. It's like you're not sitting there pushing, "Hey Emily, we got to talk about this. Hey Emily, we got to talk about our relationship." All that is logical communication. Subconscious is where you actually change in a way that's consistent, and that is basically giving her the space to feel the love she felt for you when she fell in love for you. And she's seeing the changes you are having or the interaction that you're experiencing with your kids. And it gets to the point that, and for your situation, every marriage counselor is different, but in your situation, the way it's developing is like she feels comfortable suddenly, and she's like, "We got to talk." And you have the awareness to know those first few talks are not going to be fun. It's not going to be fun. And,
no. But I'm open to them, and where my emotions would have carried me through into an anger or an outburst, and shut her down completely and make her feel, well, she would call it manipulation, or manipulating her feelings. I just allowed them to go, and I think that is one of the biggest things. That this has brought back to who I am, or who I was beforehand, and who I am now.
Thank you. And just again, a little bit of context of it there. It's like a lot of guys reach out to their wives. They initiate these conversations, but what happens is the conversation doesn't go the way they want it to go, and inevitably it creates so much pain for them that at a certain point they just burst out or shut down. Either one of those. You're better off not even starting the conversation than even going down that track, because it just reinforces the wrong picture of who she thinks you are, and in your case, thinking that you're manipulating her. I really appreciate you taking the time. Just moving forward, what is the one thing that you're excited for as you move along the fast track, as you move along, really the transformation with your wife?
I am really looking forward to having a lot more deeper conversations. I'm really looking forward to. I miss the intimacy. I miss the connection of those conversations. But then even more, I miss I guess I'm really looking forward to actually getting back on into a relationship instead of feeling like there's this wall that I can't break through. Um, I am just there's a lot to look forward to. I also am looking forward to the boys can have a father that they want to emulate later on, and that they see how to be a great husband if and when they get married. Um, how they need to be fathers and step up for their kids and for their their children and so I know that's hopefully 20 years down the road. I don't really want them to be 18 and have kids, but to be in a stable relationship, to be married and have kids, so that I can be an example for them. As for my marriage, I'm going to keep some of that stuff to myself.
Absolutely.
But I really am looking forward to more conversations. I'm looking forward to those times where we can support each other, that we can get back to encouraging each other, that we can be a team again, because we were a great team beforehand. I know we can get back there.
And you're in the process. That's what's so beautiful about this interview. And I look forward to interviewing you again in 6 weeks or 8 weeks at another point, and to see the progress, because that's the most fun. You actually watch someone. For you, it may not be fun, and I get that. For you, for you, it's like, I can be smiling because I sort of see how these things work. But to you, you're middle of it. Although parts of it
Mm-hmm.
are pleasant and at least eye opening. But I look forward to interviewing you again, and just for the guys watching this, like a role model of you as a father starts right now. Like when the kids are little, 6 years old, 3 years old, as they grow up, seeing their father in love with their mother is the best thing you can give to your kids. It's not a conversation you want to start with them when they're 19 or 25, because they're watching you right now. Now is when they're being molded. And for guys who want to explore if Amazing Marriage Fast Track is for them, you could just comment in the comments, just write "my marriage," and if you do that, we'll reach out to you, have a chat, and see if it's for you. And just want to wrap up with some and get your thoughts on this, if you want to give us, Chris. Like, subconscious communication is about reading your wife's mind. It's about understanding the patterns. Like, Chris's confidence is not just coming from becoming a better person. It comes from being able to tap into the patterns that she has, recognizing what she needs in the moment and responding to that confidently. And as a result of that, naturally, you're going to be more patient, less angry, because you have a logical understanding. Do you want to comment on that at all? Is there anything I missed on that?
No, I mean, in that 3-hour drive back, there were times that I wanted to ask certain questions, but I knew, and I could just read it. Like it's almost like she was prompting those questions to shut down those conversations. And I just kind of took the conversation a different angle or a different way, just because I think she was, and maybe I was reading wrong, but I was really thinking that she wanted me to say something so she could stop the conversation. But when I didn't ask those questions,
Beautiful.
she wanted to keep going with it.
I love it. That's great.
And I said, I got some more questions, but I can't ask those right now. She goes, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "No, let's wait for a different time."
Beautiful.
And so now she's intrigued, and we're going to get into this tomorrow, but now she's intrigued about, okay, what were these other questions or comments he wants to make? And so I don't know how many times we did that, probably 2 or 3 different times over the last 2 conversations.
How did that feel? I'm going a little bit past the time, like 2 minutes, but like, how did it feel when you had that, like, just, you read her, you knew exactly what to say, what not to say, which is a huge piece of it. How did that feel internally as a man?
It actually felt really good. It was, I'm getting some of that, I wouldn't call it power, but there was a control there that I knew that what I was doing was actually going to guide us to a better spot.
That's awesome. I'm glad I asked that question. I didn't know what I was going to hear, because I didn't get that detailed update yet from you. We're going to be talking tomorrow, just one-on-one, and that is like this is what subconscious communication in action is. It's not just becoming a better person. It's not just becoming a better dad. All those things are true, but they flow from your ability to read your wife's mind and her heart, to virtually predict her move in a way that at least you know what to do, what not to do. And again, for guys who want to reach out to explore with me and my team, if you are a good fit for the program or not, comment "My Marriage." We'll be in touch with you. And again, thank you, Chris, for joining us. And God bless you. Every time you talk about Alaska, I'm like, I'm in the Northeast. I'm in Baltimore. I'm like, I have none of that around me. Like, it just sounds like awesome mountains, fishing, and I don't like the cold weather, but I wish I could sort of combine the two somehow. Anyway,
May, June, July. That's all I'm going to tell you.
May, June, July. I have it down.
Yep. All right.
Well, I look forward to interviewing you again, and we'll talk tomorrow. All right.
All right.
Thank you. Take care. All the best. Bye.